All right, I'm like facing directly in the sun because I kind of wanted like y'all to be able to see me and not be a big shadow. So like, forgive me if I'm squinting the whole time. um, Man, I really came out here. I had nothing to say. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't know. I don't really know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have a topic. So I just kind of prayed for a couple minutes, and you know, God's good. He puts a word on your heart. He'll give you something to say even when you don't know what to say. And it really wasn't, a full message. It was a word, and the word was identity. And it's a great topic to talk about is identity. What is our identity? What is your identity? What does it look like to find your identity? What does it look like to have an identity? What does that really mean? There's something interesting with me, just my story, my testimony, kind of personal struggles, things I've been through. One of my biggest struggles has been identity and knowing who I am, who God made me to be, who I'm supposed to be. That's always been a struggle for me, especially in my youth, in my teenage years. I didn't have an identity. My identity was wrapped up in who I was around, what I was involved in, you know, not even really what I was interested in, but maybe to a certain degree. But it was never like me, I was never a complete person, I guess is what I could feel like. I always felt like my identity was changing, throughout what I was going through. If I was playing basketball, that was my identity, and I took on the kind of identity you needed to be a basketball player, to look a certain way in that realm. In the same way when I would hang out with certain friends, even now I'm still kind of the same way, but it's a little better. But you hang around certain people, you kind of change. You talk a little differently. You don't open up about certain things. You don't talk about certain topics that maybe people would look at you like you're weird if you talk about it, or just things you wouldn't mention. Around family, a different things, just a different side of me would come out, or a different personality, and it's not really purposeful. It's more of a subconscious thing that happens because you're not rooted in who you are and who you're supposed to be and who God created you to be. And it's been like that, my whole life. I've struggled with finding my identity and trying to figure out who I am, and not just figuring it out, but having confidence in it, because I think it's hard for me because, if you see the things I post and the things I talk about, I could be looked at as weird, right? The conspiratorial world and the side of things is always kind of demonized in society, and, it is what it is. And so I'd kind of just not talk about those things. I would never post about it because it's like, what are y'all gonna think, if I talk about those things, I look weird. But I don't know, man. I just realized, and as I grow and as I grow closer to God and spend more time with Him, He kind of just shows me, like, you are who you are because I've made you that way. It's not because you need to be something. I think for so long in my life I wanted to be somebody else. Like, I wasn't content with myself. I wasn't happy with who I was because I just didn't feel like I fit anywhere. And it's an interesting thing when you talk about this, because I think a lot of people feel misplaced and feel out of place. They don't feel like they fit in. And it's funny because the biggest reason we don't fit in is because we're not ourselves. I think a lot of us struggle, with finding friends who we could really relate to, people who are authentic. I think in families, even people struggle with being real with people and being authentic because we're worried to be who we're meant to be. We're worried to be who God created us to be. And I think the funniest thing I've realized just over the past couple months and even the past maybe year or so is God's just been showing me, like, I've created you the way you are to fulfill the purpose that I have for your life. And so when you think that you're not who you should be, or you demonize who I've created you to be, it's almost like you spit in the face of God because you're just not content with who He's made you as. And I was thinking about this and kind of praying about this morning even, and I was just realizing that, my personality as we grow closer to Christ changes, but you become more authentic even. It's not even that you change a lot. Yeah, you become more righteous, you become more like Christ, but your interest don't always change. Maybe your unrighteous ones do, they become righteous, but you still kind of like the things you like. You still enjoy the things you enjoy. And I was just reminded of the verse that God works all things out for the good of those who love him. And it's just so true because I just keep thinking about the conglomeration of my interest in the things I've been involved in and my experiences and everything that just makes me who I am, good and bad. At this point in time in my life, I feel like God's pieced me together as a person to who I am today. Because I think back to, maybe my younger self. I think even 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I would have never got on a camera to like speak to people, because I just didn't have that contentment with myself, with who I was. I was never the man that would be able to sit down and be genuine, be authentic, and kind of reveal myself to somebody, because I was insecure, And I just kind of want to talk about this because I think this is like huge, like big stuff that needs to be said and things that people need to think about. Like, why are you insecure? Because I think a lot of times we know we're insecure. We know we struggle to fit in. We know we struggle with certain things. But we'll never take like real steps to kind of figure out why or change it. And we need to take those real steps. Otherwise, we're not going to be functioning in a healthy manner, And this isn't even always just relating to Jesus and having faith and knowing God. It's also kind of advice that we just need self-help, therapeutic wise. The best self-help you're ever going to get is knowing Jesus, because you're going to be able to have a perfect reflection to look at and go, okay, I'm trying to take on this identity and become more like this. Not because that's how you become saved, not because that's how you obtain anything. It's not about what you obtain. It's about doing it because you want to be more loving, and you understand that when you look in the mirror and you see Jesus, you see his reflection looking at you, you understand that that's perfection and that's love. And I want to be more loving, and I want to be a better person. And so if you want to be a better person, then there's no better example to look at than Christ. So first and foremost, just a disclaimer out there is that that's the best self-help that you could ever get. Because you don't even need a therapist, You don't need to go sit down with a therapist if you have God's word, if you can pray. I promise you, like, I've literally sat down and gone to God as my therapist and opened up about every single issue, insecurity, problem, worry. I mean, anything you can name, every issue, every traumatic experience, every negative thing I've ever done. Like, I've been able to just break apart who I am at the feet of Jesus and watch him explain to me why I've been the way I am, explain to me what was right, what was wrong, things that were healthy, things that were unhealthy. And he's just been my therapist, like Jesus has been my therapist. And he's much more than that, but he can be that, is my point. I think a lot of people think I need help, but I don't know where to find it. I don't know who I am, and I don't know how to figure that out. Because our identity, like, is who we are, You are the conglomeration of your experiences, of your interest, of the things you love, of the people you're around. And you are you. You are who God created you to be. Even if you don't know Jesus, God created you the man, the way you are, for a reason. And he does have a purpose for you. And when you are frustrated and trying to figure out who you are and why you don't fit in, that's the best time to come to Jesus, because he can show you, I've made you this way because you fit here. You've went through those negative experiences, through those negative things, so that you can be a light in this sector, in this area, you know? I had to go through insecurity struggles and figuring out who I am so that I can come on here and help somebody who maybe doesn't know how to do that, right? And I can look at God during those times where I'm frustrated and blame God and be mad at God. But if I don't go through those, then I don't have this wisdom and this knowledge and this, this experience to explain it to somebody else. So don't demonize your identity. Don't demonize who you are. Don't look down on yourself because people don't understand your interest. They don't understand, what you like doing, who you like being around. And I say this in a way that also self-evaluate and understand what you're indulging in and what is healthy and what's not, Are your interests healthy, or are they not? Are they sinful? Are they righteous? You have to self-examine a little bit. Because I'm not going to just say, be interested in, whatever sinful example you want to throw out there is, and take that as your identity, because I think a lot of people get their identity wrapped up in the wrong things as well. And it's hard to be a healthy person when that happens. But don't demonize your identity. Don't demonize who you are, even if other people do. Understand that you were made for a reason. You were fearfully and wonderfully made, and that's the truth. And that goes for every single person watching this video. I don't care if you agree with my worldview or not. That's the truth. Is that we are all handcrafted for a reason, for a purpose. You're not here for no reason. You're not here for no purpose. And take real practical steps to figure out who you are. Sit down, make a list. Write out what you're interested in. Write out what you enjoy doing. Write out, if you could do one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? If you could help people all day, how would you help them? What would you really do? What would you really do with your life? If there was no jobs, if there was no mortgage to pay, if there were no, whatever the worldly thing is we get wrapped up in, even your family, even whatever. If you didn't have any responsibilities, what responsibilities would you take on? Because that's what you would want to do. And think about those things. And I'm not saying, go do it. If you have a family, don't leave your family behind just because. I'm not trying to give out bad advice here. But I want you to think about this stuff because it's so important. It's so important to know who you are and know what you want to do. And put steps in place to do it, because God really does make us for a reason, and we're not here to just pick a career and never pursue anything else and never do anything else with our lives. We're not here to hide in our rooms behind phone screens, never engaging with other people. That's a word for myself, because that's literally me all the time. God didn't create us so that we could just be hidden, especially as Christians. We have a light to shine, and that's just the truth. We have to shine that light, however it is. But your interest in who you are as a person, your identity is not meant to be hidden. Your identity is meant to be revealed to other people. And when you are unapologetically yourself, that's when you find genuine people, you make genuine friends, and you have people around you in your life who love you for you, and you don't have to worry about keeping up an image, playing an act. This is especially important when you think about dating. I think about dating a lot because, one, I want a wife, but two, I've been through, negative experiences as well, and a lot of it has been because we put up fronts when we try to meet people. We try to be somebody that they would like. You find somebody that you are attracted to, and you find out their interests, and you find out those things. And so often we change our personality to try to be more like them so that they can like us. And maybe we even throw away certain interests for a time period because it's okay, I'm not going to do this because she's not really into that. She thinks that's corny, so I'm gonna act like I don't like that. But if you like really deep down enjoy it, and it's like you date her for a year, and you throw out this interest that you're like, man, I'm still interested in that. I would still like to do that. To her, you don't even enjoy that. And so then it's like you get into it, and it's like, I didn't know you like that, and I don't really like that you like that. And now all these problems pop up because you weren't genuine at the beginning. My point is to be genuine. Be you. Be who God called you to be. Be who God created you to be. And know who you are. And take real practical steps, again, to figure that out. One of the biggest things that's helped me is journaling. Journaling has been big for me because when you put out in words your fears, your anxieties, your interest, and I mean, I can't think of anything else, but just when you put out into words who you are and you look at it, you can kind of observe yourself and understand, oh, like this is me. And you get a more complete picture of who you are, and it's easier to grasp because when things are in our head and they're just thoughts, we're not able to discern the healthy and the unhealthy and the negative and the good. When you don't have anything to compare something to, you don't know what's unhealthy. It's like if you eat candy your whole life and you're overweight and you feel like crap and you're sick all the time, you're like, man, like life sucks because blah blah blah, but you don't understand, no, it's because I'm indulging into something that's unhealthy. It's the same with our thoughts are the same way. When all you think is negative, unhealthy thoughts that aren't good for you, and you never compare them to like healthy thoughts and understand what healthy thinking is, then you're gonna think that it's normal to think the things you do and to feel the way you feel. And again, I'm speaking from experience. I literally would never pursue interests that I had because I thought other people would think I was stupid. I thought that, I would never make any money doing that, so it's not worth it. Even now, I still have that issue. I always thought, what would people think if I posted this, or if I did this, or if I came out here and did this, or if I pursued this? And my mind worked that way, to the fact that I shot down my own interest in my mind because I just didn't think healthily. I wasn't confident. I didn't know who I was. And I let my identity become what somebody else told me my identity was, instead of letting it be who God created me to be. And it's very hard to, make genuine connections. It's very hard to relate to people. It's very hard to be confident and love yourself when you have unhealthy thoughts like that. And I'm not here to preach like this self-love, because again, self-love is not the most important thing. But you shouldn't demonize yourself in your own mind. You shouldn't just simply hate your identity. There's an unhealthy level of that as well. But there is an understanding of knowing God has created me who I am, and I've been through everything I've been through in my life for a specific reason. And I have to know that, and I have to use my interest in the things that He's created me to have, and my experiences that He's allowed me to go through in my life. And I have to use all this stuff, everything I've learned, everything I'm interested in, everybody I enjoy being around, a certain sector of people, certain activities I enjoy doing. I have to use all this and be that, and then actively engage in those things, because that's how you become who you are. That's how you really take on your identity. And there's a humility in that, because you understand that it's not by my own doing. You understand that God created me this way. And you understand your unhealthy things, and you start to learn what is healthy, and you start to pursue the righteous side of things. And you start to understand it's not about this. You understand what it's not about. You understand what things are about. And then you can take real steps toward pursuing that. And that's how you find what you're called to do. And that's how you figure out who you are. And so I don't know who I'm talking to, I don't know who this is going to help, but I know it'll help somebody. I know somebody needs to hear this. And I want you to think about that. I want you to understand who you are. You know, I don't want you to live an unhealthy life. Even if I never met you, I don't want you to live an unhealthy life. I don't want you to be stuck in your own mind and never able to become who God created you to be because you're worried what somebody might think about you, or because you've been through so much trauma in your life, you don't even know what healthy is. Because I've been through it. I know. Trust me, I know. I know. I know what it feels like. And there is a way out, you know? There is a healthy way to live. There is healthy life out there, and there is a healthy outlook and a healthy worldview. And there is a God who loves you, and he wants you to be healthy. He didn't create you to live a life of misery and depression and a life full of suffering and a life full of hell. It's not what he created you for. And I'm not here to preach prosperity gospel and say, oh, you're meant to be rich and wealthy and da-da. No, that's not what I'm saying. But God uses everything in your life to build you into somebody who can work for his kingdom. And it's the most fulfilling thing you can do. He's created everything you've been through so that you can become more loving. Everything. Every relationship that you've been through that has just sucked and been broken down is so that you can learn from it and become more loving because of it. Because when somebody comes along and somebody else comes along, you'll know how to love because you've seen the bad examples of how not to. Sometimes you have to use the bad examples to learn the good. Not all of us are fortunate enough to have the good examples there all the time. And that's okay. You know, we're not all blessed with the same gifts either. But God doesn't want you to, demonize your identity. He doesn't want you to hate yourself. He wants you to hate your sin. Your unhealthy behaviors. That's what sin is the unhealthy side of things. That's why he died. He died and took all that unhealthy crap to the grave and got rid of it so that we don't have to live unhealthy lives, and that eventually we don't have to live in an unhealthy reality, because that's what this reality is. Whether you agree with me or not is whatever. That's my outlook. This reality is not good for us. But you have an identity, and it is hidden in Christ. And when you take his sacrifice and accept it, and you accept who he is, he reveals your identity to yourself. And you begin to understand, oh, this is what I'm here for. But you have to seek him out, and you have to seek it out in him. And it's funny because all throughout my life, I sought out God for so many different things, but the one thing I never did seek him out for was like, well, why am I here? Like, what have you made me to do? What am I here for? I never did that. And sadly, it took 24 years for me to finally sit down and do that. But even that, God is using for my good, even though I don't know why it took so long. And that is a frustration I have. I do understand that God really does work everything out for my good. So those 24 years were purposeful, even though maybe I didn't do things I shouldn't do. Maybe I did sin and I should have or maybe I should have sought him out, but I didn't, and he gave me opportunities, but I ignored it, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, because I am where I am now, and God is still using everything from my past for good, and it can be the same for you. It's funny, I think about baggage. A lot of people use the term baggage, especially when it comes to trauma. You get in a relationship and someone has a ton of bad relationship experience. They have a ton of baggage, a ton of trauma that they've been through. And we all look at that and we demonize it. Oh, your baggage, gross, right? But the thing is, the thing with God is he can take your baggage, and it's not something that weighs you down. It's like grocery bags. It's like all the wisdom and all the good things can be brought with you. And you don't have to bring all the bad stuff, because you can heal and work through it, and God can get you through it and show you why you went through what you did, and you can understand, oh, okay. And then I can bring all the good stuff with me. And so you don't have to be stuck in unhealthy cycles over and over and over, and bringing baggage and then creating more baggage. And just like, Jesus came to free you from your baggage and to turn your baggage into tools. Tools to use for his kingdom, experiences, wisdom, knowledge, love. It's like literally the fruits of the Spirit. You'll be more loving, you'll be more joyful, you'll be more peaceful, kind, goodness, gentleness. I'm supposed to go in order, I didn't think about it, but you can learn all those things through it. You can learn how to be more joyful by going through negative situations. You can learn how to be more loving by going through negative situations. You can be more patient by being in situations where your patience was tested. But the difference is, when you choose Jesus, he changes all those things. And if you don't choose him, you're kind of stuck with your baggage. And you can go to a therapist and they can give you whatever advice they want to give you. It's not going to be the best advice. I'm not a therapist, but I know what a therapist would say. And therapists want your life and want you to live a life that you are satisfied with and you're content with and that you enjoy. But the thing is about joy and love is these things flow through whatever life you're living. And a therapist is going to try to cure your feelings. But your feelings aren't even your identity. And that's the thing you have to understand, is that your feelings are not your identity. Just because you feel depressed does not mean that depression is your identity. Just because you've been through traumatic experiences does not mean that your identity is wrapped up in your trauma. It's absolutely not. It's absolutely not. And so I know a therapist would tell you, oh, well, maybe take on more healthy behaviors, or maybe have this outlook so that you can live a life that you enjoy, do things that you enjoy. And I'm not saying don't do things you enjoy, but again, when you wrap up everything into yourself and it's just about you, that's not your identity either, because your identity is also, what can you offer to help other people? We find our identity when we serve others in a way that we are good at. We find our identity when we do things that helps other people, because really what we want to do the most in our life is help others. And if I had that kind of faith, honestly, I'd probably just be out in the streets, like trying to help homeless people, or trying to help, people with whatever they're going through. If I could solve people's problems for them, I would love to do that. For the rest of my life, I would love to do that. But there's a specific way that God wants me to help other people, I'm not him. I can't just, go fix everybody's problems. But there are some problems I can fix. There is some good I can do, right? And that's where my identity lies, is how I can help other people with my experiences and with the things I'm interested in and the things I enjoy doing. Like this, I enjoy doing this. And I know that this will help somebody, like I said, not because I know, I love to do this and this is just me. No, because I know I'm helping somebody in this moment, and I'm doing what God has called me to do because I'm revealing his love to you, the viewer, and I'm sharing his message. And so I know, because I'm serving God in this moment and I'm serving you. And that's really all we could ever want out of our lives. All we should ever want is to serve God and serve others. Because it is in service and in pure selflessness and love where you find the most joy, the most patience. It's so easy to be patient with somebody when you love them and you have their best interests in heart. It's so easy, so easy. It's easy to be joyful in your life when that's what you do, and you wake up every day and you do that. It's easy. You can be joyful. And you start to let go of all the stupid things we think about, man. All the things that aren't your identity or that you wish weren't. Because you start to take on his identity in his yoke, and his yoke is easy. And so your identity is wrapped up in him. And if you really, truly, if you're watching this video and you're like, man, I really just want to know who I am. I don't know why I'm alive. I don't know why I'm here. I just feel like crap all the time. I'm depressed. I don't like the way I am. I'm not healthy. I don't like my appearance. I don't like whatever it is. There is a God who loves you and created you the way you are. And he wants you to use your negative experiences. And he wants to teach you how to use your negative experiences to help other people. And he wants you to be healthy because he does care about you and he loves you. He wants you to be healthy. He wants you to think healthy thoughts. He wants you to be loving. He wants you to, live a healthy lifestyle. He doesn't want you to indulge in all the addicting negative things that we get wrapped up in. Find your identity in who God has made you to be. And in that, you will fulfill your purpose and know your calling for your life.